Hey everyone, welcome. Today we'll be learning Pandas hands-on by solving some Leetcode problems. We'll start off with a very easy one, and in this entire series, we'll be progressing to the hard ones and learning few tips and tricks on Pandas. So let's switch over to Leetcode and see the first problem that we will be solving. So in this problem, it says combine two tables. It's pretty straightforward. So they are giving us two tables, which is in Pandas terminology would be some data frames, as you could guess in the code section on the right hand side. They'll be giving us a person data frame and an address data frame, and we need to combine the two tables on some conditions and show some specific columns out of this table. So let's see the problem statement first. So this is the person table, which would contain the person ID as integer, first name and last name as varchar or strings, and the address table or data frame would consist of address ID and integer, person ID and integer, and city and state would be varchar or strings. So what they're asking us is to write a solution to report the first name, last name, city, and state of each person in the person table. If the address of the person ID is not present in the address table, report null instead. So we could return the result in any order, and the result format is given here. So these are the two input data frames. The first one is a person ID of 1 and 2, and in the address table, if you notice carefully, we have person ID 2 and 3. There is no 1, there is no address for person ID 1. So as expected in the output, the first person or the person with address ID 1 has city as null and state as null, whereas the person with person ID 2 has the city of New York City and the state of New York. So let's see how it can be done. You can go to the top of this problem statement, and there are two links, which is SQL schema and Pandas schema. So we are interested in Pandas and how the data look like in Pandas. So just click on here. You would get some schema or the data related to this problem statement. So I'll just copy them, and I have a Jupyter notebook open, so I'll just quickly switch over to that and we can proceed. So this is our Jupyter notebook. So before doing anything, I'll just first import pandas as pd. You notice the schema that they have given has pd referred to in here. If you can see pd.data frame. So there's a raw data. They are loading it in the data frame, pandas data frame, and another data they're loading it in address. So these are essentially our two inputs. We will see how the input looks like in a moment. So I'll just type in person. This is our person's data frame, and I'll type in address. This is our address data frame. So what we are essentially asked here is we need to join these two tables somehow on the basis of this person ID columns here and here, and then report back the result with only first name, last name, city, and state. So in SQL, it's pretty easy. In Pandas also, we will see in a moment. So there is a very handy method for Pandas data frame, which is called merge, and it is merging the two tables, but in SQL terminology, it would be joining the two tables. So what are the inputs this merge function has? If I could just press shift and tab on my Windows keyboard. So here you could see the first argument, which is which is mandatory, is right, and it needs to, you need to provide the right data frame. So this is person is the left data frame, and address will be the right data frame. So I'll just write right equals address, and let's see what we get. So we get the only record which has a matching between these two. So the IDs are matching. Person ID, this is the left one, and address, the right one, and the matching column between matching entries between these two is person ID 2, person ID 2. So Pandas is anyway like in this way it is intelligent enough to look for common IDs. So for this particular table, this is our ID, person ID, and it tries to match if there is a similar column, right? So this column name and this column name is similar, so it tries to match on its own and give us the result, common result, or rather the intersection between the two. So if we talk about in terms of join, this is an inner type of join which gives you the intersection or the common data between the two. So if I press Shift Tab again, I could see there are lots and lots of other methods. So here there is a property called how, and this is by default inner, which is why we are getting this intersection result. So in order to change it to something which we need, because we need everything from the person table, and the address table can be null. So essentially we want the join to happen in a left join manner. So we need to say that to pandas that please join it using the left join method, and then it should give us the desired result. So if you could see, it is keeping everything from the persons table, and the details which it could not find in the address table, it is marking as NA or NaN, and this would essentially give us the null value. When the Leetcode program runs, you would get the null value. But uh, what are the columns that we need to send back? So it's not everything that we need to send back. We need to send back first name, last name, city, and state. So the way to select columns from a pandas data frame, so this essentially gives you the data frame. To select columns, you first need to specify the columns array, which columns you need. So if you want one column, and if I just write first name, that is, it give me the first name values. It is a series, but we need a list of columns: first name, last name, and the cities and state. So for that, you need to pass a list of column names. So a list, the first bracket indicates that you are trying to select specific columns or rows, but if you're passing another list, so this would consider a list of columns. So the column names are first name, last name, these two from the person table, and city and state from the address table. So if I just type in city and state and then hit enter, it should give us the desired result: first name, last name, city, and state. Let's quickly go back to Leetcode and see if we are on the right track. So in Leetcode, if you go back here, you could see the output is first name, then last name, then city, then state. So this is all good and done, but I would also suggest to go back to your Jupyter notebook and do some tweaks to make it explicit. Here what is happening is pandas itself is trying to figure out which column it needs to join on. This is good enough till your column names are equal. So as and when we progress into various other problems on Leetcode, we need to specifically mention the column on the left table and column on the right table that it needs to join on. So for that, there are handy properties on this function, the arguments, which is left on and right on. So for left on, meaning which column on the left table should it start joining on. So for us, it is the, fortunately, it is the same column in both the tables. So it is person ID in this one, and the left on would be the same column, person ID. So the result would still be the same. As you can see, the result is still the same, but it's good practice to follow this so that you are explicitly letting the person who is reading your code understand what you are trying to do. So just copy this and let's paste it on the Leetcode's problem statement. Just give me 1 second. Here, I go to code and I'll just write return this particular thing. So it was pretty easy. So it was a one-liner, but in other complicated scenarios or the complicated problems that we will be solving in the future, we would write more lines to make it explicit and to make our code more readable. You could do it here as well, but it's just a first problem and let it be. I'll just run it, and here you would see the test cases are passing. So they are passing this person table as input, this address table as another input, and the output is exactly equal to what is expected. Now if I submit it, I have already solved this problem, so you would see me submitting other things as well. There are other submissions, but yeah, it beats 98.5%. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I hope you guys understood this first easy problem and the merge method of pandas. Do read it. I have attached a link of the official pandas document for this merge method in the description, and hope to see you again. Bye bye. Happy coding.